Hey guys, we'll give it a few minutes, then we'll go ahead and get started. Hey guys, just go ahead and confirm you can hear me. Glad to see everyone here. Okay, perfect. We'll give it another 20, 30 seconds, and then we'll go ahead and get started. All right, let's go ahead and get started. So hopefully you guys are having a great weekend, great Sunday, wherever you're at. Now, this is part of our TA Academy series where we've covered technical analysis over the past 3 live streams every Sunday. So first live stream we had, we covered technical analysis basics. So support and resistance levels, because those are the most important, in my opinion, for setting a solid foundation. The second stream we had was time frames and different chart patterns. So mastering when you're using the higher time frames versus when you're using lower time frames, i.e. higher is for swing trades, lower is for scalping. And then afterwards, the different chart patterns that most use, such as double tops, double bottoms, head and shoulders, inverse head and shoulders, etc. So now you've kind of built up your arsenal a little bit. You have a little bit more tools to use. Now we're going to cover different candlestick patterns. So these are going to, again, they aren't as prevalent in crypto as they are in stocks or the TradFi space. And what I mean by not as prevalent, meaning they don't show up as much. Again, crypto is a little more volatile. There's a little bit more uncertainty. And so they don't quite follow these candlesticks to a T. But we'll go over the different candlestick patterns, some of the most important ones that I'm looking at, and I believe that could be an aid to you when used in confluence with indicators such as the RSI, stock RSI, and even support and resistance levels. So again, remember guys, confluence is key, but we're solely looking at these candlestick patterns so you can see exactly how they can hold on their own, and then how you can actually help and actually strengthen those patterns with the use of various indicators and SR lines. So with that, let's go ahead and get started. Now, most of you guys already know how to read a candlestick chart. Ignore this green candlestick here, okay? The open price is on the bottom, the close price is at the top, and then you have the wicks. Whereas the red candlestick, the open price is at the top, close price is at the bottom, and you have the wicks for how low and how high it went. So everyone knows that. But the majority of this stream is going to be covering these candlestick patterns here. Now, because we're only going to be covering these candlestick patterns, the stream may not be the full hour. Maybe 30 minutes, maybe 40 minutes. Again, if you guys have any questions along the way, go ahead and post them, and I will answer them accordingly. But you have various types of candlestick patterns. So you have your single candlesticks, whereas like your hammer, inverted hammer, your dojis, and then you have your multi-candlestick patterns. So these can be as simple as just 2 candlesticks, a bearish engulfing, bullish engulfing, or even, tweezer bottoms, tops, or even 3 or 4 or 5 candlesticks, okay? Now, before we cover each of these patterns, I want to mention, I do not recommend people trying to look for, multi-candlestick patterns like the 4 or 5, because these are very subjective. If you can find them exactly like they are in these pictures, potentially they could play out. But again, they are very subjective. So in my opinion, they're not as accurate as, for example, you're having a downtrend and you get a hammer candle, where it means most of the buy pressure was on the top half of this wick. And then you have a reversal to the upside. Okay? That's a little bit more easier to digest for most people, I should say, versus someone trying to look for rising 3 methods or, bullish mat hold, trying to really fine tune, because you're not going to find these candlesticks a lot. Like these patterns, maybe once or twice in the past year. Okay? Yes, they happen, but they're not as prevalent or not as consistent as more of these single or even double candlestick patterns. So with that, let's go ahead and look at the different candlestick patterns and see what we can find. So what I like to do in all my streams is actually provide real world use case and show you guys exactly how these played out. I don't like explaining, hey, these are the candlesticks and that's it. I like actually looking when they happened during Bitcoin's price movement and when you can see how you can actually help to use them to your advantage. So we talked about the Doji candle. Now, the Doji candle, as you can see, it's more of a neutral candle, where it means that there's no advantage one way or the other, bullish or bearish price action, because the bulls and bears basically came to a standstill. You have the same amount of wick at the top as you do at the bottom. Now, I will caveat this. Even though the Doji is a neutral pattern, when you combine it with other indicators like the RSI or stock RSI, then it can be actually seen as a reversal pattern. Okay, I'll show you what I mean by that. So looking at Bitcoin here, obviously it's in a strong uptrend, and this is on the daily chart. So what I want to tell people and I want to emphasize is, please, when you're looking at these candlestick patterns, focus on higher time frames like the daily or the weekly, because that means that in this candlestick, on the daily, you have 24 hours worth of data. So that tells you it's much more significant versus using the hourly candle or even the 15-minute, right? When you're scalping. Like, it's not going to be as significant, whereas you have the daily or weekly where there's all that price action within that one candle. Therefore, it's much more significant, especially when combined with your indicators. So the first thing, this Doji. Again, it's not exactly picture perfect. You don't have like a thin line. There's just a little bit of candle body showing. It's not just like this thin line, but it's the same amount of top wick and bottom wick. So we can presume that, okay, this is subjectively, we can say it's a Doji. Now, after an uptrend, Dojis usually do indicate a type of reversal. Now, if you want to go directly off of that, you can. But what I say, you want to use it in confluence with your indicators. So here, okay, where was the stock RSI whenever the Doji was here at the top? Well, the stock RSI was overbought. So stock RSI was overbought. So now you already know, okay, this is probably reversal because we're overbought. The RSI is near this 66 level, so almost overbought as well. And then you had this curve to the downside. Now you had the stock RSI basically curving to the downside as well. The RSI curving to the downside, verifying that price momentum is weakening and bullish momentum or bearish momentum is actually starting. And then from there, it just fell off a cliff. Okay, so if you would have looked at the stock RSI alone, combined with this Doji, you would have said, okay, 2 confluence indicators for bearish reversals. Maybe I may go into a low leverage short here. Okay, again, a little bit risky because you don't have confluence with the RSI, or maybe it's not at direct resistance. But the fact that you can see that the bulls have had a hard time continuing here and the bears may start gaining control is further emphasized by the stock RSI being overbought. And then at that point, if you would have taken the trade, you can already see here Bitcoin from 66,000 all the way to a low of 58,000. So if we look at that price action, I mean, that's a 10% move. Even on 5x leverage, that's 50%. So you could have taken profits whenever the stock RSI was oversold down here, because you could expect some type of bounce. You still would have got up to a, look at, I mean, even 10% move. Or if you want a candle close, 8% still. It's going to be a lot over a couple days. So that's one example. Now another example. Let's go over the inverted hammer. This is a reversal candle. Okay, so usually after a downtrend, if you have an inverted hammer, that means that price could not get it to close, and it's still, you had this full body on the bottom where price is actually starting to pick up. Buy pressure is starting to pick up, especially because it's green. So it closed green, even though you had all this sell pressure and half of this wick taken to the upside. It was still able to close green from a downtrend. So you look at that. Okay, we had a downtrend, but look how many confluence signals we have. It's right at support. Okay, it's right at support. So remember from our first video, drawing support and resistance lines, why that's important. Second, look where the stock RSI is at. Stock RSI is oversold, and it's been oversold during this time for a week. So you can imagine eventually this price is going to continue higher. RSI, not quite oversold, it's at 35, but nonetheless, now it's curving to the upside. After you have this inverted hammer candle with the stock RSI oversold at support, I mean, so many different confluence signals. And this is what I'm talking about. This is when you can take your higher leverage trade. So 10x leverage on this, I mean, if we just look at the price, if you would have bought in the second candle here, 21% move, 10x leverage, you're making over 200% in the span of a couple weeks, okay? Now, granted, I wouldn't have held it that long. I probably, when stock RSI was overbought here on the daily, probably would have sold, which still, that's 11% move. If you're on 10x, you're making 100% in a week. That's insane, especially on Bitcoin. So you can see why when you combine these candlestick patterns with indicators and support and resistance levels, I mean, that's when you get your strong move. So that's the magic of using candlesticks, not by themselves, but in confluence with indicators to help verify or validate your thesis. Okay, let's go ahead and look at a few more. So another one. Now, for this inverted hammer candle here, okay, this one you can see, if we zoom in on it, what does it look like? It looks like a hanging man. Now, I want to mention something with hammer candles or inverted hammer candles, or the bearish version, hanging man or shooting stars. So if you have a hammer candle that's actually forming after a downtrend, regardless of the color, you know, better if it's green, but even if it's red, it could still be a bullish reversal because it's showing that price was able to close over half of this wick, and all that bullish momentum is concentrated to the upside. So even though it may be a red candle, if it's after a downtrend, it could mean that, again, the bears are weakening. They weren't able to close over half of this wick, and now we could see a reversal here. But again, we never want to just go straight off of one indicator. So we're looking, look at this. The RSI is oversold. The stock RSI is oversold after being oversold for 2 weeks. So now people are saying, oh, I don't know when it's going to go higher. Well, just look at this inverted hammer, or as they call it here, the hanging man. All this buy pressure to the upside now, with the RSI being oversold, stock RSI being oversold, reversal. At that point, I mean, you're getting at least a 40% move in the span of 2 weeks. Again, I wouldn't have held it for that long. Maybe would have held it when the stock RSI got overbought. So maybe around here, which still would have been a 24% move in less than a week. 5x leverage, even 10x leverage, 240%. Now you can see the magic. If you wanted to wait until RSI was overbought, then you got a little more profits, 36% or 360% on 10x leverage. And so you can see the importance of using confluence with your RSI and stock RSI with these candlestick patterns, and even if it got to support as well. So you can see exactly just the benefit of that. And if you guys are loving the video, appreciate a like. Always helps us grow the Gem Hunters YouTube and get out to more people that need it. Now next, let's go over some engulfing candles. So we have bullish engulfing or bearish engulfing. These mean for bullish engulfing, you have a red candle in a downtrend. Then you have a green candle that engulfs it, is twice the size, and you reverse back to the upside. So again, these are reversal candles. Same with bearish engulfing. You have an uptrend, and then you have a green candle followed by a red candle that's twice its size with a change in momentum to the downside. Okay, so all these reversal candles are after, for bullish ones, they're after downtrends, or for bearish ones, they're after uptrends. Okay, just keep that in mind. because they're reversing, right? It's a reversal. So you're in a downtrend, you get a bullish reversal, you reverse to the upside. You're in an uptrend, you get a bearish reversal, you're reversing to the downside. Just keep that in mind. You can't be like in a chop, you know, and then you just see a hammer in the middle of some range and then you just short it or long it. So, okay, so let's look at the bearish engulfing. So this candle here, you can see we were in an uptrend, right? We were going from 19,000 all the way up to 21,000. So nearly a 10% move. But we saw this price, this green candle getting engulfed by this red candle over twice the size of it. That shows you how much bearish momentum is building because you had all these buyers here, especially after this green candle, but now they're weakening. Now it's all sellers on this 24-hour candle, nearly all sellers, okay? So at that point, you're saying, oh, this looks like a bearish engulfing. Let me look at my indicators. Well, look at this. Stock RSI, overbought. RSI, almost overbought. It's at 66. But the fact that the stock RSI was getting overbought here, and now you have across the downside. If you even wanted to wait, if you wanted to wait for a second candle even, to see the RSI crossing below the signal line, stock RSI crossing below the signal line, showing a shift in momentum, and then short it at the third one. A little bit riskier, but you can still do that. And then look how much further it fell. In 2 days, it fell 23%. 5x leverage, that's 115%. 10x leverage, that's over 220%. So you can see, again, the advantage. You don't have to trade just off of emotion. You can trade off of data. And that's why I made my name Crypto Data, because we're strictly looking at the data. We're taking emotion out of it. Now, the next tier after this is algorithmic trading, which I'm working, again, on trading bots. And that's another thing completely. But the fact that you could take emotion out of it just looking at the indicators here and playing them to your advantage with these candlestick patterns, which now you have this to use in your arsenal. Again, if you guys want to take a screenshot of this, we'll post this video again so you can see this little cheat sheet here for candlestick patterns. But the fact that you can use that when combined with indicators to get all of these profits in a few days, I mean, guys, now you're seeing what the professionals use, why they're so successful 70, 80% of the time, because they're looking at all of this. They're taking it all in. This is all confluence, right? They're not just guessing, oh, sentiment's really bad, so I'm going to buy. No, that's not it. Yes, that's one piece of the puzzle, but you combine that with candlesticks, with indicators, with support and resistance levels, with trend lines. I mean, there's all kinds of various things that go into a short or long trade. We make it look easy on Gem Hunters because we're hitting them all the time, but a lot more goes into it. And now you're seeing it with the market updates, now with the analysis, you're seeing exactly why they are successful. Now, this one, I don't like as much. It's a little bit more subjective, but I put it just so you could kind of see where I was coming at, what my mind was thinking at the time. So for example, okay, let's look at a reason why. Again, this is a gravestone. So this is a neutral candle, okay? When you have most of the price action at the bottom, very, very thin candle bar, and then most of the wick at the top. Okay, it's a neutral pattern because if you're just chopping around, then you see this, it doesn't necessarily mean it's reversing. Even though most of the price action is to the downside, it's a neutral candle at the end of the day. And so you're continuing higher. That's really what I want to say. You don't be trading these during chop, okay? Especially these neutral candlesticks. But if you're getting to the top of the range, okay, so you have this little uptrend here, and you're finally getting to the top of the range, and then you see, in essence, a little inverted hammer candle here, which would be like a shooting star in a sense, okay? Now, again, it's not all at the bottom, right? There's still a little bit of bottom wick, but then afterwards you have a bearish engulfing. So a candle that's over twice the size, okay? This is very subjective, so I don't want you guys getting used to this type, but when you're looking at these two, combined with the stock RSI being overbought, okay, that's something. Maybe you could take a low leverage short, like a 3x, because again, it's not as picture perfect. And at that point, really, you're just hoping that it plays out with these two and this. So again, not as much confluence, but when you see the stock RSI even crossing to the downside, you can use that as confirmation. So in the next candle, you could short it. So even if you're at 3x leverage, I mean, heck, this is huge move. So again, with the stock RSI gets oversold, you could sell there, right? It gets oversold down here, sell, 13% move, 3x leverage. That's 40% you're making in 4 days. 40% is crazy. And then if for some reason you kept holding it because you're waiting for that RSI to get oversold, well, that's 19% or 60% on 3x leverage. And if you really just wanted to keep holding it to see if you could take even more, at the very bottom, it was 23%, which would be over 65% on 3x leverage. So you can see the advantage of, again, it's just very nuanced with these candlesticks. Like, they just look like random patterns at the end of the day. But if you really know which ones are bullish and bearish, your mind actually is able to assimilate that and form a proper thesis of, hey, I think I've seen this before. And you're looking at this candlestick chart for so long, you're like, oh yeah, maybe that's a little inverse hammer reversal with, or a shooting star per se, reversal with a bearish engulfing, okay? Again, not the best looking here, but come out with indicators, maybe you take a little leverage short there, okay? Now I'm gonna look at some of the questions as we're going here and see what you guys are saying. Woodan says, can we do analysis on ETH? Yeah, we'll go over ETH after I cover the rest of the candlesticks, and then we'll go from there, because we'll probably be done with the candlestick patterns in the next 10-15 minutes. Hey, Vic, good to see you. Glad you're having a good time. See, Panda Bytes, best free community. Thanks, Luke and Crypto Data. Hey, no problem. Glad you guys are enjoying the streams and enjoying the content. That's what Gem Hunters aims to provide. Quality content. We're not pump and dump group. We're trying to separate ourselves from the norm. Let's see. Philip says, what time frame is it? This is the daily time frame, Philip. So if you look at the top here for the D, that's 1 day. So use the daily time frames or higher for these candlestick patterns, because that is going to provide the best data, because then that means each candle is 24 hours worth of data. So it's a little bit more accurate versus using like a 4 hour, 1 hour, 15 minute, etc. Let's see. Philip says, how do you know where is support and resistance level? Yeah, so support and resistance is basically you're looking at an area that has had multiple touches. Okay, and what I mean by multiple touches is, for example, this area here. It touched it once, then you had the price wick down twice. It wicked down to this 18,800 level 3 times. So this is shown as support. It came down to it again. It bounced off it again. Okay? And then came, see, all this time it's been bouncing. And look, I didn't even see these candles on the right side. I just looked at these bounces here. And you can see how many times it bounced afterwards. And then finally, when it broke below the support level, then that's when you saw the move lower, okay? So again, the benefit of support and resistance. You're just looking for touches multiple times where it's bounced off of certain levels, and that's gonna be an area of significance. You could also bring up the volume profile indicator, which shows where that volume is concentrated, because all of this is based off liquidity. So if there's a lot of buy orders near here, you're gonna see the volume bar is really high at these levels, because again, it's self-fulfilling prophecies at the end of the day. And then the indicators used on the screen is the RSI. So the RSI and stock RSI. Okay, so the RSI you can find if you just type in RSI, Relative Strength Index. And then the stock RSI is the stochastic RSI, okay? So here, type in stochastic RSI, you'll see it under technicals. And that's this bottom indicator here. Let's see. Anant, glad you're enjoying the content. Azara says, can you use the candlestick patterns for hourly time frame? You could, but they're going to be less accurate. And if you do have them on the hourly, which let's go ahead and look at the hourly. Why not? Let's go ahead and look at the hourly. Look at the price action, okay? Because these candlesticks can still play out, but the percentage move may not be as high. So for example, here, okay? This here you have a bearish engulfing, because you had this red candle engulfing this green one, nearly twice the size. We can even, I don't want to get a micrometer out, but we can even measure it. I mean, nearly exactly twice the size of this candle. And then look what happened, it broke to the downside. So you could still have made a good amount. I mean, 3.75% in the span of a couple hours, right? And what you would have been looking at is, okay, RSI was overbought, stock RSI was overbought, now we're curving to the downside. Okay, maybe there's still more bearish momentum, right? You're not catching it right at the overbought level, like up here. And even with that said, I mean, this is almost double the size of this previous green candle. So you could even say this was a bearish engulfing combined with this. So yeah, but if you want to do it more to the T, to the book, then this one was definitely twice the size, and then you continue lower. So the hourly and shorter time frames are possible to find these patterns. I mean, there's going to be more of them playing out, but the percentage that you're going to get from identifying these patterns on that lower time frame is going to be less. So just keep that in mind, that if you're looking for these patterns on the hourly time frames, then or lower, then again, they may not play out as much. So just keep that in mind. But I mean, here, another bearish engulfing, right? You had a green candlestick, red, twice the size of it. RSI was overbought, boom. And then at that point, huge move to the downside. So you can see they can still be reliable. But in my opinion, I would have a little bit more confluent signals like the RSI and stock RSI to go on with that. And then you can expect the bigger move. So yeah, they could still play out on lower time frames. See, hey, Super Luke, glad to have you here. Appreciate the compliment. Let's see, Corpus, glad you're learning a lot. Let's see, Universe History says, any news, update, or trade on BTC? So no, Bitcoin reached our take profit 3 at 83,400. Right now, we're just monitoring because there is a lot of chop, and I don't want to post trades for you guys unless they're more high confidence level trades. Like right now, it's the weekend. There's a lot of chop. Bitcoin hit major resistance, but again, there's still support to the downside. So we're in kind of a chop area, a consolidation range. So I'm waiting until we're really extreme one way or the other. So that's why we're just, again, we're not posting a trade yet, but still expect to trade over the next 3 days. Remember, guys, the premium group gets a lot more trades. Okay, you're gonna have a lot more trades, 40 plus trades, including DGen Alpha, Gem Alpha, and leverage trades versus the free group. So again, while Ethereum is low, consider getting into the pre-group because you're getting nearly a 50% discount where it was last year. So if anything, that's going to be more advantageous. Let's see. Mr. Z Choker says, what's your strategy? My strategy is finding confluence. So using support resistance levels with RSI and stock RSI. I'll be honest, I don't use candlestick patterns as much, but I mean, seeing how much these play out, it's actually pretty advantageous. And so I recommend that everyone actually look at candlesticks. And again, paper trade on them, right? It's not the end all be all, but if you're combining candlesticks with indicators that are overbought or oversold with patterns such as that we were talking about, the ascending wedge or the descending wedge. Again, this one is going to be a little more subjective here, but if you can, again, find these patterns where these wedges, where then they break down and then they go a lot lower after retesting as resistance. I mean, that's where you can really start to get a lot of these trades, you know, and play them to your advantage. So yeah, that's where it shows that a lot of these can actually play out pretty good. Okay, we're going to go over a couple more candlesticks and then I will answer a few more questions. So talked about the bullish engulfing, the bearish engulfing, and then the hammer candles and the inverted with the hanging man and shooting star. Those are going to be some of the main ones. Like there are some where you have 3-line strikes, you know, rising 3 methods, tweezer bottoms, 3-star south. But again, guys, these ones are even more subjective than what we saw previously. Okay, I mean, looking at the daily time frame, which we were looking at before, I mean, yes, you could have some of those other patterns playing out, but matter of the fact is you're better off just looking at, you know, a couple candles or versus 3, 4, even 5 candlesticks playing out. Because again, it's going to be much more subjective. You're going to have to wait for a longer amount of time. And so that's why I don't really teach the, you know, multiple candlestick patterns, because again, it's a little bit harder to combine those with the confluence of our indicators like the RSI and stock RSI, because you're having 4 or 5 candles together. Therefore, the RSI or stock RSI may have already played out by that time. We saw how quick those moves can happen over a few days, right? And so that's why I caution people against using those multiple candlesticks. Like here's one, okay? Here's one we could say where you have 3 green candles to the upside and then a red candle engulfing all 3 of those. Where did we see this? The bullish 3-line strike. You had 3 green candlesticks followed by 1 engulfing candlestick, and then it continued higher. Okay, that's what we saw here. But again, I caution people against this because again, while it is continuation, I mean, it was during a lot of chop. It's not like we were in an uptrend and then price had this, then it went down, then it continued higher. Okay, we were in a choppy environment, so it's not going to be as accurate. So I don't want to get people used to these types of patterns. While it did play out, you got continuation here. It just, again, it's going to be a lot more subjective actually. So yeah, I just want to keep, give people a realistic expectation of what to look for with that. So, but with that, let's go ahead and look at the other questions. Again, I didn't forget about the ETH chart question. I will do some Ethereum technical analysis. Let's see. Asma says, where are your meme coin videos? So meme coin videos, so I don't do meme coin videos. I believe that's Nock that does those, but those should be on the Gym Hunters channel. If not, then we will look to get those uploaded. Eswar says, will we get more leverage plays from Monday? Like almost every coin has done a pullback. Anyways, huge thanks to you and Luke for sharing the sauce. Free love from India. Hey, Eswar, appreciate the love. Likewise. Yeah, so basically these trades, like I mentioned, we want to wait until they're more advantageous for us, whether indicators are oversold, overbought at major support or resistance levels, etc. Fears at all-time high or greeds at all-time high. So we're trying to provide, give you trades whenever the environment is conducive to those trades. We could provide more risky trades, but again, that's where it's just a little subjective at that point, and that's where you need to use lower leverage and just keep that in mind. But yeah, we'll try to post some more trades. Again, premium group, we have a lot more trades in there, but yeah, we'll expect some trades within the next probably 3 to 5 days. We just want to make sure that they're as accurate as possible. Motive Sphere says, do you use fair value gap for entering? I mean, it's ICT, I think. Yep, inner circle trading, or only support and resistance. So yeah, so Motive Sphere. So fair value gap, that's an ICT method, like you said. I could use that as well. Like I don't use it as much consciously per se. I mean, I'm looking at CME gaps because those usually act as support or resistance levels once reached, or I'm using my indicators and support resistance levels. So yeah, I don't look at FVG, fair value gap, as much, but that's definitely a good method you could use. Moses says, best indicators to predict the market. So let me go ahead and actually pop out the chat so you can guys see what I'm looking at. Okay. So let's see. Okay, yeah, best indicators used to predict the market. So I just use the relative strength index and the stock RSI along with moving averages. So like the 50 EMA, the 100 EMA, or the 200 EMA. Really, the 200 EMA is one of the main ones, and then the 50 EMA is good on higher time frames like the weekly because it did predict Bitcoin bouncing. Like, for example, let me just show you guys real quick what I mean. Is whenever we had Bitcoin bounce right here, this is using the 50 EMA on the weekly. So Bitcoin bounced 20%, bounced again 172%, bounced again 101%. Now if we extrapolate that out, then over the next 4 months, expecting 96% move, $153,000 per Bitcoin. And so again, not saying this has to play out, but that's the advantage of moving averages on higher time frames, especially if they act as support or resistance levels, which oftentimes they do. Okay. So yeah. So to answer your question, RSI, stock RSI, 200-day moving average or 50-day moving average, and then support and resistance lines. Universe History says, what's your target after BTC analysis will hit 90K or go down to 80K? Great question. So funny you mentioned those levels. Is actually there are some people looking to buy at 80K. It's a very important level. I would have some buy orders there if you don't. Now 90K, that's a big resistance point as well. So asking me which one is going to hit first, oh, that's hard to, I mean, I'm tempted to say 80K is going to hit first because so many people are looking for a green Monday that I think people are getting overconfident and probably longing more than they should. And so that's why I would probably say 80K. But again, I don't know if it's going to go down to 80K. I mean, there's a lot of support near that 82.5, 83K level. So we're going to have to see what happens. But yeah, I would definitely be longing if it gets to 80K. Ithka says, how do you close the stop loss and take profit? So you just go to your open orders on BloFin and you can X them out and close the trades. You can cancel if you want. So Or on the chart, I believe there's even like a line that shows where your take profit or stop loss is, and there should be like a X near it. You can just click that on BloFin. So yeah, watch our BloFin tutorial, guys, and you can see exactly how to trade it. It's pinned in the Gym Hunters free chat. If you go to the very first message, you'll see BloFin tutorials. So definitely do that if you aren't. And then Ice says, go to Ethereum, please. Yes, let's go to Ethereum. All right. So, big levels for Ethereum here. And what I'm looking at right now, this downtrend line, which intersects at around 1700. So we saw price, I mean, Ethereum's really been underperforming. I mean, it's gone up 10% over the past few days, whereas Solana has gone up 30%. So we really want to see Ethereum start to outperform soon. But my only hesitation here, and again, why we haven't posted some trades, is because we're seeing the stock RSI start to get to the overbought territory. And so this overbought territory means that, okay, we should have some type of pullback in the near future. So watching for that is definitely a big level, as well as, I mean, it's in the middle of a range. We held this 1550 support level that we've had on market updates. But again, the next big resistance, I mean, it's probably going to be 1790 if I had to really narrow it down there. Because like we said, I mean, middle of the range, also you're near trend line resistance, stock RSI is getting overbought. Like, there's a lot of indicators that Ethereum's probably going to come back to the downside. So if I were you guys right now, I would place some orders around 1515 to 1550. I mean, really, if you want to make it a wide range, if you're doing low leverage, like 3x, maybe look at 1460 to 1550. Okay? If you want to capture some of that move to the downside, then if you miss it, you miss it. But that's going to be where your major support's at. Because, I mean, just looking where we're at now, I do not want to buy ahead of this trend line resistance, especially in the middle of a range, and with stock RSI is overbought. See what else we got. Okay. See, Kant says, what's a more important indicator for making a trade, stock RSI or RSI? You know, they're kind of confluence with one another. If I had to use only one, RSI is more used than stock RSI, so you may have more self-fulfilling prophecies play out when people see this being oversold, especially when it crosses to the upside from being oversold, showing bullish momentum. Yeah, more people look at RSI versus stock RSI. I like to use them in confluence with one another, though, because they measure just a little bit differently. Corpus says, how much is the premium group? I believe it is 1 Ethereum or 1.5 Ethereum. I don't want to say one way or the other, but I believe it's one of those. And with that said, you know, I believe it's 1 Ethereum right now. But again, I could be wrong. But nonetheless, it is at a 50% discount. So Ethereum last year was over $3,000, $3,500 now. It's $1,600. So you guys are getting a huge discount on Gym Hunters Premium. There's a lot of value we provide. So if you want to join it, go ahead. Again, the advantage is you get 40 plus calls per month. You get daily live streams, daily, you know, more extensive market updates and technical analysis, meme coin calls, Gym Alpha, up-to-date gym reports. I mean, I could go on and on, but there's a lot more benefits to it. But you can see the value we provide in Gym Hunters free group. So just think of premium group as like that, but it's amplified. All right. And if you want to join Gym Hunters Premium, it's in the description or in the Gym Hunters free group pinned at the top. You're going to see that link as well. Don't click scam links. Don't answer any DMs. Gym Hunters will never DM you. Please block anyone that tries to DM you. All right. Sharon says, loving this content all the way from SA. Hey, glad you're loving the content. Appreciate it, guys. Always appreciate all the love. We try to provide you guys with the best content we can, all for free here. Again, you want to get more, join Premium, but we try to provide you the best content so that you guys are getting the most value, especially because you are sacrificing your time to watch this live stream, which I very much appreciate. Okay, Motosphere says, how many trades do you take in one day? I mean, a lot of traders lose because they overtrade like me. If my strategy is working good, I mean, 8 out of 10, I took too much trade and then lose them all money. Give me a piece of advice. Yeah, so how many trades do I take in a day? Sometimes none. Sometimes I don't take any trades and I'm just waiting, right? Patience is a virtue, especially in crypto. You need to have emotional stability among, you know, anything. You need to practice emotional stability and practice patience for when your indicators come into confluence with your support levels, with maybe even candlestick patterns that we've talked about today. I mean, that's whenever, because it's all about trading when the advantage is on your side. Whenever, you know, the statistics are on your side. As long as you win more than you lose, you will stay profitable. But the reason 90% of traders, 95% of traders lose is because they overtrade, they act with their emotions, and they lose all their money within a year. Okay, that's just the statistics of it. That's just real life. Because it is hard to have emotional control and wait, especially when you see people making money left and right. It's hard to stay there and do nothing, okay? Sometimes the best trade is no trade at all. Remember that. Kenneth says, if are we looking, Fartcoin and on the daily, is it overbought on RSI and stock RSI? Is it responsible to play short against the trend? Yeah, so you're talking about Fartcoin. Let's see real quick. So right now, like you said, the daily. Okay, the RSI is overbought, stock RSI is overbought. Now let's look at support and resistance levels. So there is more of a resistance, support turn resistance here. As far as right now, I mean, you do have technically this resistance here now acting as support. So just be cognizant of that. This isn't really a perfect doji, a little bit more wick to the upside than the downside. So I wouldn't really want to say that. Maybe you have a bullish or bearish engulfing that may play out. But again, with all these wicks, I just hate playing it if you have all these wicks here. But potentially a bearish engulfing if you want to wait till the daily close. But yeah, I mean, what I would say historically, probably best to take a short here and then take profit near 80 to 81 cents, which would still be, heck, like a 7-8% move, even on 3x leverage. So 21% total. So yeah, I would do that if it were me. But again, but you're in the middle of a range, so just keep that in mind. But yes, technically, I mean, probably better shorting than longing here. Just make sure your stops are at a good level. Even if you only have your, even if you only have your stop at 99 cents, but the risk reward there, you know, 13 cents to the upside for a stop versus only a 6 cent profit isn't good. That's a 0.5 to 1. So that's not a good risk reward ratio. You want to at least have 1 to 1 or 2 to 1, meaning you're profiting twice as much as your stop loss is, or at least the same. So if you want to be a consistent trader and last over time. All right. Let's see. Nicole says real stock RSI. Aspen says which platform most traders use. So use BloFin. So we use the BloFin trading platform. In my opinion, it is the best non-KYC leverage trading exchange. If you want to use BloFin, you can either, if it's not in the description, it should be in the description. If not, then it should be pinned at the very top of the Gym Hunters free group. Sign up under Gym Hunters and use that platform, and they're going to stay non-KYC for at least the rest of this year. So versus Binance, Bybit, which they have KYC. So I believe strongly you should not have to use your ID to verify when trading crypto. Yeah. Motisphere said, yep, BloFin's the best. Let's see. Ice says, Sailor posted, we're going to dump on Monday. Yeah, it's very possible, guys. Like I said, we're all about counter sentiment here. If most people are saying green Monday, potentially expect a dump. Azara says, do you think alts like Hype and Fartcoin will retrace? Yeah, I think anytime you have like strong performers like that are continuing to the upside, you're going to have some pullback, even in a bullish trend. Like, for example, in a bullish trend that we've had, like market cycles, 2 years bull, 2 years of bear. In those 2 years of bull, there is multiple 20 to 30% pullbacks, like at least 2 or 3. And we've seen those in this bull market. I mean, there's been crazy pullbacks. And so the more that you're aware of that and cognizant of that, the less scared you'll be when they actually happen. We saw the pullback to the 50 weekly EMA. Bounced off of it perfectly at 77.5K. I even posted about that, so you guys are ready for it. So that's the thing, guys, is the more, if you fail to prepare, then you prepare to fail. So remember that. So always be looking, always be studying, always be ready, so that when opportunities present, you'll be ready, right? Luck is when preparation meets opportunity. Rohit says, what's your view of BTC for long term? Long term, I'm still bullish. I'm still bullish on BTC. I still think that there's some more moves to the upside. But like I was telling him earlier, I still think that we could have, you know, a further move down, especially on Monday. More people are expecting a green Monday versus a red Monday. And so, yeah, at the very least, I do think we could see some more moves to the downside before continuing higher here. All right. Let's see. And then as far as my long-term Bitcoin target, 115 to 120K by October. Rohit said, should I add Bitcoin now or wait till it comes down? Safer move is waiting till it comes down. The very least 83K, but 80K is going to be like your money level. Ko says, go to Sol, please. All right, let's go to Solana real quick. So Solana, a little bit middle of a range here. Again, there's more support near the 125 level, but there's still some resistance here around 130, but then resistance at 136. And so, like I said, middle of a range here. Maybe you can bet if it gets to 130, but the stock RSI is getting overbought. And so I would wait until it gets to 125 at the very least if you're looking to bet on Sol. Philip says, I learned more in 30 minutes of this live than in 12 years in school. Crazy. Hey, Philip, that's, again, that's a positive, but that's a negative for school. But yeah, I'm glad you learned a lot here. Again, guys, we try to provide the best value we can, especially being free for this group, right? You guys are still getting some content. You guys have committed your time. You deserve to have some type of value. Universe history. Would you go to trade live any day? Universe, people have asked me that, and I hesitate to say yes because the market's very unpredictable. So I don't want to be trading, and because I'm not really a scalp trader. I'm more of a long swing trader, just like you saw with the Bitcoin trade. It's more of a long swing over a few days, right? I'm not looking for intraday 15-minute moves, 5-minute moves. That's the only reason I would say no. But I try to provide you guys with the tools you have. So if you want an intraday, swing trade or intraday scalp trade, I should say, then you can do that. So Linda, hey, no problem. You're very welcome. Let's see. Triple K Beats, how do you know that it's time to close your position? What confirms you to close your position? So a couple things, Triple, is one, price gets to a major resistance level. Two, your indicators are getting overbought. So when your indicators get overbought, that's when you can look at start taking some profits. Or three, there's some type of reversal pattern forming, like a reversal candlestick pattern forming. And then at that point, you're saying, okay, I'm seeing this either bearish engulfing or I'm seeing some type of divergence playing out. Like again, RSI is making a lower high, while price is making a higher high, and then eventually it curves to the downside. So things like that is where I take profits. And so again, like for example here on Solana. So you had price making a higher high, but then you had RSI making a lower high, a bearish divergence. You could wait for one candle for it to play out. When it did play out, it crossed below the signal line. The stock RSI is also crossing below the signal line. You would have taken that short on the second candle. You could have made 11% in 5 days. 3x leverage, 30%. 5x leverage, 50%, etc. 100% even on 10x, because Bitcoin usually I do 10x. But that's what I say. So if you're seeing your indicators getting overbought like the RSI, take some profits. If you're seeing yourself come to major resistance, take some profits. Again, it's just all about when indicators get extended or price reaches inflection points. Let's see, Ichtha says, why is it good to check the CME gap? What info can it give us? So the CME gap happens whenever, let's just say CME's closed on Friday, there ends up being a gap over the weekend, and then it gaps down or gaps up the following Monday. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy that I would say 8 times out of 10, the price ends up filling that gap. Now, I know there's some more, there's some meaning to that, and there's some better fundamental analysis to why it does that. But the matter of the fact is, it does fill that gap majority of the time. And so what you can do to your advantage is anytime there's a CME gap, like we've been posting in Gem Hunters, you can expect price to gravitate towards that. Now, here's a rule of thumb I've noticed. If the gap does not fill, meaning price does not go back to where that gap was within 10 days, most likely price is going to continue in the opposite direction. So what happened with Bitcoin, whenever you had that gap at 77K back in November of last year, this whole year, Bitcoin was just soaring higher to 110K. Then finally, it filled that gap at 77K and bounced perfectly. Because again, you had confluence of our weekly 50 EMA, major support, indicators were oversold, fear was at an all-time high, all that stuff, right? So that's why CME gaps usually do fill. Again, there's a better explanation for it, but it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy and just something to do with just how it works at the CME and just how market psychology works. Azar says, can you look at the hype charts? Yeah, I'll look at the hype chart real quick. Okay, so hype chart, it's coming up against resistance, guys, 16.15. So maybe actually not a bad shorting opportunity now that you mention it. So not bad here. Not bad, actually. Could be a good short, especially with the RSI curving down. So yeah, I would actually look at that as a good shorting opportunity if I were trading that. So we may look at that in the near future. But yeah, hype's not bad. Support's going to be at around $13. So if you want to take intraday profits, around $14.70. This resistance turns support. Asma says, tell me something about Solana XRP ADA future. Solana, I mean, bullish, XRP, indifferent, ADA, indifferent. Saeed says, can you look at Say? Yeah, I'll go and look at Say real quick. Just have a few more minutes, guys. I'm going to have to end the stream. Appreciate all of you watching. Okay, Say looks interesting here. Again, it did bounce off support, you know, resistance turned support. Although, same with a lot of price action. Stock RSI is overbought. Keep that in mind. We could have some pullback. So if Say breaks his support level here, then I would look at the very least 1660, but more likely than not, probably around this 15-cent level. That's where I would start buying Say if it breaks down. Resistance-wise, could have some resistance here at around 21 cents and 22 cents between this level. So again, if you want to draw this as a little rectangle, nice range of support, nice range of resistance if you just want it, and then the mid-range where we're at right now. Raphael says, have you had a look at the chart of the new gym report for CAS? What do you think about the chart? CAS is a interesting one. CAS has been a lot of people compare it to being the next Bitcoin or what Bitcoin should have been. Again, I'm indifferent on CAS right now. Just looking at price action. I mean, you can already see here, stock RSI, excuse me. Stock RSI is overbought. RSI is curving to the downside. Near little resistance here at 7.6 cents. I'd just be worried about CAS right now. If you're looking at a good value to buy, I'll look at the very least 6.8 cents. Looks like pretty strong resistance turn support, and then very strong support near 5.6 cents. So if you just want to layer in DCA in for spot wise, because leverage trade, this would be way too big of a gap leverage wise. But yeah, those would be levels I would look at. 6.8 and then 5.6 if you can get it. That would be a money trade. Khan says, how do you determine your stop loss? Usually it's below the previous wicks. So for example, if we had this wick to the downside here and I was longing at 5.7 cents, then I would place my stop below it at like 5.2. Because more times than not, people are going to front run these wicks and buy ahead of time, and it's not going to reach it. Or some people will have their support at the candle close and they'll put it just below it, and then usually it gets stop hunted. So like price will go down and then curve back to the upside. So I like to have it very low. Philippe says, could we trade using literally all what we saw today, or should we be aware and having more macro perspective of other things? So technically, yes, you could. You could trade on what you've seen today. Not strictly candlesticks, but like candlesticks combined with your indicators, combined with support and resistance lines, yes, I feel comfortable saying you could trade with that. Now, obviously, there's other fundamentals at play, but there's a funny saying that says, show me a chart, show me a chart and I'll tell you the news. Right? Basically meaning we had some bullish news around April 8th and continued higher. We had some bearish news around March 20th, continued lower, right? It's all a game at the end of the day. I mean, yes, it's best to use fundamentals plus technicals, but if you only had to use one, technicals are a little bit easier because they take emotion out of it, and then you can buy at major support levels and then sell at major resistance levels when combined with your indicators and candlestick patterns. So yeah, 100% you could. Azar says, how do you know when to use patterns like double bottom and head and shoulders, or to use it in conjunction with candle patterns? So mostly, Azar, I use, like, for example, like the double bottoms here. This, I mean, yes, this isn't perfect double bottom, but price bounced off this area twice and it almost looks like a W. What I use with that is I'll look at, for example, okay, where's my indicators at as well? Well, stock RSI was oversold. RSI was almost oversold, and we have a double bottom here. That's basically 3 areas of confluence. If you bought there, you'd have been a nice profit, okay? So yes, I don't use strictly just the double bottom or double tops. I use it when it agrees with other indicators, whether it's moving averages, candlesticks even, or indicators, most likely. Saeed says, on which time frame do you draw trend lines, the daily or higher? 4-hour, daily, or weekly. The higher time frames, the better, because it's more significant. Eswar says, it's 12 a.m. now, and I don't feel sleepy at all. Got to lock in this bull run. No more excuses from now. Yeah, Saeed, or Eswar, 100%, because I do believe that we could start to see some bullish momentum. You know, after this little pullback that we have, as long as, I mean, we have a 90-day pause, guys, on tariffs. What does that mean? That means Trump isn't, that means we have a window to trade where Trump isn't going to do anything with those other countries. He's pausing on tariffs. We also have the M2 money supply lag. Like, go ahead and check my X account, the crypto data. I made a long post showing about everything I'm looking at and showing why I think that, you know, we could rally in April and even in May because of the M2 money supply. So there's a lot of stuff happening, even quantitative tightening ending, right? The reduction's already started, but we could see that ending very soon, which would open the door for more stimulus and quantitative easing. So like, there's so many bullish catalysts that I think that we've been overextended to the downside, and now we're having some type of relief. Even at the very least, if this is a bearish rally, I mean, if we're still technically in a downtrend until we break 88K, that's the big level to watch for Bitcoin. Look at Bitcoin to close above 88K, then things will start getting interesting bull-wise. But yeah, now's the time to lock in. Now people are getting excited, and now I think that we could start to see some more bullish price action after these pullbacks. Monkey says, OM rugged. OM coin rugged, get out. OM coin. Let's see. Oh, that is crazy. Wow. Wow, OM coin rugged. That is crazy. Huh. Hopefully none of you guys were in that. That's horrible. Yeah. Could not prepare for that one. Ouch. Maybe they got hacked. That's crazy. Felipe says, before you go, could you look at a possible trade we could make now using what we learned? This session was fire. Thanks, man. Hey, no problem. Thank you, Felipe. You know, out of everything we've looked at, hype looks like the most enticing. A hype short. If you can short hype around, if you can get it near 1690, that would be money. But 1680 to 1690. I mean, even if you want to do it now and just DCA up and do low leverage, like you know, 5x, and look for take profit around 1470 with your stop loss around 1750, that could be a play. So stop loss, I mean, again, if this doesn't play out, don't blame me, but stop loss around 1750, entry around, you could say now to 1690, and then take profit target 1470 and $13. So yeah, so that would be my trade. Be shorting it up here, hope for a move down, take some profit around here, hope for a move down, take some profit around here, and then stop loss all the way up here. So yeah, I mean, that would be just from what we looked at today. The hype short looks somewhat good. But again, don't shoot me if it doesn't work out. Okay. But yeah, I mean, indicators oversold, a lot of stuff being oversold on multiple time frames. So could be a drop on Monday. But hey guys, with that, it is 2 p.m. CST, 3 p.m. EST. I hope you guys enjoyed the session. Appreciate all of you guys watching. Again, this mainly was due to watching candlestick patterns. So keep an eye, screenshot this, watch the video if you want to look at these. Again, these are helpful when combined with indicators like your RSI and your stock RSI, along with support and resistance levels. That's when you'll see these real, these candlestick patterns play out. Even just looking at here, almost like a bearish engulfing, right? There's almost twice the size of this red candle as the green in an uptrend showing a reversal, then it played out, right? Whereas the stock RSI was also overbought. That's what I'm talking about. When you have these multiple confluent signals, then you can really take advantage of them. But thank you guys so much for watching. If you got any more questions, leave them in the comments to the video. I will, post my market update and TA update later today, so stay tuned for that. But yeah, guys, have a great weekend, and until next time, talk to you guys later.